morning and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host and disembodied hands, Quindy, disembodied beard, John, and you, the audience. Always the most important part. Hello, everybody. Yes, yeah, I'm going to try to finish Burying Space really fast. I think it's going to go really, really quick because I want to start B. So, yeah, that's where we're at today. How are you all on this Tuesday? Alrighty. Let's get this happy little thing. We have our leather brown was what we were using. I really have to remove some of my I still have some canceled colors in ye old paint drawer. I guess it's Wednesday. Not Tuesday. I keep thinking it's Tuesday. I got up very early this morning because David had his work is downtown today. He had to go to a conference down in San Francisco, so he had to get up early, and that meant I got up early because when David gets up, there's a kiki that flies through the air and hits me on the bed. So I'm getting up. He's like, you could go back to sleep. I'm like, okay, who goes back to sleep after a 75-pound dog pounces you? Plus the windows are open, the sun is coming in. Like, how am I going to go back to sleep, honey? It's very silly. That's good. Korniko is better than I do. When I paint all day, I don't even finish one mini. So I'm going to get my leather brown. I'm going to get out some of the red and green that I used last time. Can I remember which red and green I used? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Well, it's usually actually the light that pounds into my sensibilities. Yeah, I used some brown liner in this too. I can see it. Just a little bit of green and red. I think I'm going to avoid the green and just go with brown liner and deep red. We're just going to do a quick wet blend. We're going to smoosh it all together, and then we're going to glaze it, and we're going to come out of it with a finished Vampibarian base. That's my goal. So I'm just going to get a little bit of this red. Don't need very much. And then a little bit of the brown. And the reason I would use brown liner here for these blotches instead of using something like walnut is that brown liner is much weaker than walnut, and this is a good thing. When you're mixing, adding walnut to something is going to just totally bomb it because there's so much high density black pigment in walnut that it will shift your color like far more than you really want it to do. So when you want a really dark brown for something like this and you don't want it to bury every other color when it gets mixed in, brown liner is your choice. Walnut is just too strong. Hello, everybody. Oh, man. The bee puns. If I would have known that you guys were going to pull this, I don't know if I would paint this model. I do have to scrape the bits of attachments off the base a little bit. Didn't realize I hadn't quite done that. I think I did manage to get everything else good, though. Yeah, otherwise B looks really good. I don't see any crazy mold line stuff going on, so we shall keep that there. All right, and I'm gonna grab some water and mix up these colors. We're using deep red, leather brown, and brown liner. Deep red, actually, I much as I love it, I recommended canceling it. Because when it comes down to it, I could use Dragon Red and be just as happy. And it's very close to the same color. And Dragon Red is slightly more useful. So that gives you some insight into my cancellation suggestions for Reaper. Even if I really liked a color. Because if you look at these two, not much to choose between them, is there? So what happens is Dragon Red is a little bit warmer because there's blue in deep red. But if you look at, I mean, they're exactly the same value, right? Like they're pretty much interchangeable, guys. But it's true, Kodiak. Yes, the dad jokes are the dad jokes. But so this is the kind of thing I was talking about when I was talking about making recommendations for cancellations for Reaper guys. When you are this close in color, and there is a lot of areas in between the bones and MSP line where you can run into this, right? Dragon red is a bones and deep red is a core, and although they are fundamentally different in pigment, dragon red is darkened with green and deep red with blue and magenta, and if you add white to them you'll see a difference. Usage wise, you can use these interchangeably. So right, exactly, Crazy Pot. That's exactly it. And so that's, even though I really love deep red, I always have, if I was forced to use dragon red instead for all the applications I use deep red for, I would be fine. And so when I recommended cancellations, that was kind of my thought, is I had to choose what would be the most utilitarian when I came across two colors that were very similar. What's going to be the highest utility? And I felt that dragon was a higher utility dark red because it's darkened with its complement. So it actually retains a bit more life and vibrancy than deep red does. So yeah, so that's pretty much, if you just listen to what I just said about those dark reds, you will see my entire philosophy for how I recommended cancellations in MSP. We would not have triads. There's no triads in this new line, seriously. What I would like to do, and what I will essentially contact Ron about, like, once Reaper makes a decision, because, you know, I don't know if they're going to take my recommends or not. They could just throw them out. They could do their own thing. I'm okay with that. But time to panic. Bah, Cornico. This is the thing. I could tell you how to mix it. If you really want that color, I can tell you how to mix it. But what I will try to do, and what I did with basic colors in the course when I was looking at the cancels, is I can essentially put together new triads. We won't probably package them. I didn't make any recommends about fast palettes, Laura's. That wasn't my job. My job and the goal of the cancellations was to cut down the vast number of paint that Reaper has to stock right now significantly by combining core and bones. That has nothing to do with fast palettes. Fast palettes are up to Ron. But if fast palettes aren't selling, I would expect you to see... No, right, exactly. None of the fast palette paints were included in my purview. Nope. But if they aren't selling, Reaper's not going to keep them around. That's the thing, right? The problem with fast palettes is they're handy, but they're also limited application. Like, if you don't like the majority of the colors, you're not going to pick one up, right? Unless you really, really want one color. Yeah, exactly, Wendy. It's good to know that you got your expansion, though. So maybe David will get one soon. I'll tell him. You always get them first, so... But yeah, so that was my sole job, guys, and that is my decision process. And any paint that I recommended that, you know, something else would be a better choice for that slot, maybe you want to try out Dragon Red and see if you like it just as much as Deep Red. You know, maybe if you don't, then I can tell you how to mix it. It's pretty easy. Honestly, if you took Blood Red and Succubus Kiss and put them together, you'd get Deep Red. Ta-da. Super easy. Yeah, all I know is that you always get yours first, Quindy, and then David gets his. Right, yeah. See, that's a problem. That's a problem, Laura. And that's why I think box sets that are sets of paints that are not otherwise allowed for sale are kind of a bad idea. Like, it's supposed to drive sales, but in reality, it drives very limited sales. Because you only get the people are only going to buy all the colors if they want at least half the colors, right? So, I'm mixing up my paint here so that we can do a quick base. But yeah, so the fact is that some of this is going to be inevitable. Reaper, I fully expect Reaper to do cancellations. And so it's, what is the saying? What's the famous quote? There are things that you cannot change that nonetheless must be faced. And it's half of the quote, actually. It's a better quote than that, actually. I paraphrased that very much so. Because the rest of it is about, in order to affect change, there are things you must face. But I just read that this morning. But yeah, so much as I hate to say it, there's not much we can do about it. The line right now is way too big. The game stores can't stock it. They won't stock it, and that limits how much Master Series gets out there and how much you guys can find it, like, locally, right? Heavy box. Oh, good. David will be happy. But yeah, well, I recommended that Pale Violet Red be canceled, Korniko, because I think Runic Glow is a better answer. But I believe I kept the other two. But again, Reaper doesn't have to take my recommendations, guys. This is what I say. If you like a color, if you really, there are colors in line that you really love, buy them. Like, get a few extra bottles. Don't wait, because you don't know how much, we don't know how much advance notice Reaper's going to give us. And that could be, like I said, it's not like Reaper sets out to do that, but suddenly something will happen, and that will mean that Reaper has to move quickly. And that can mean that you guys don't get a lot of advance notice. And that's, we try to, like, make things friendly for you guys as much as we can. But sometimes it just don't work that way. Some days Dave is like, we have X crisis coming and we need to free up space. Where are you on that paint line cancellation? And Ron is going to go, oh, and then it's going to happen, right? We get some reddish bloody colors. I personally have never liked Pale Violet Red, Kuro. It was not the color. I had the color in mind that I wanted, and it just never really fulfilled what I wanted. Like I said, Runic Purple, or Runic Glow. Sorry, Runic Glow is my answer. That's much better concepted, and has a lot more use because you can use it not just in that triad, but to highlight any purple. So I'm using my big mixing brush to introduce some of these dark colors. And I'm putting a fair amount of paint on the model so that the colors spread out and give me a little bit of randomized texture, which I really like. The fact is, like, if you don't already use it, don't freak out if it gets canceled. You probably aren't missing out. I hate to say that, but like I said, everything I recommended cancels for was because we had something else that could do the same job, only better. All of them, buy them all. Honestly, the best thing to do would be to wait till after the get colors that you really want, but to wait till after the cancellation, and then, to make some choices and get the colors, because then you're working with the remaining line that is going to stay in place probably for a good long time, because doing these kind of cancellations is a pain in the butt, and it's not something you undertake every day. All right, so we've got that kind of like patchwork effect that we've got back here now. And now I can take some of those colors. I can mix up my light. Remember, I mixed up a much lighter color and did some more like almost marble veining kind of effects. So we're going to do that. Yeah, I didn't have any access to those either, Laura. Oh my god. It was supposed to be 3 years when they've launched the Kickstarter years ago. It's ridiculous. Like, I just wonder, like, how he's making money. I don't know. I just, like... And another thing I think you can expect, although perhaps I'm wrong, because, you know, people repeat patterns. Right, violet red is fine, but pale violet red or is and the reason is it's just a bit more muted. I mean, add a little bit of blue to your runic glow and you're probably going to get a better version of pale violet red. Maybe even a little yellow. But I was always dissatisfied with pale violet red because I felt it was not a good highlight for violet red. Very easy. Very, very simple reason not to like it when I feel that it's not a very good highlight for the color it's in the triad with. Remember, a lot of those colors I made way back at the beginning, guys, and I learned a lot more about paint line design in the decades after that. But I'll take the hit. I told Ron, blame me on all of this, and I'm here. I'm here to receive your hatred when I cancel your favorite color. I'll be here to tell you exactly why I did it, and I have no regrets. If I looked at a color and thought if I cancel this, will I regret it? I didn't cancel it. But as always, if there's a color you love, just get a couple extra bottles. Remember, there's over like 400 drops in each of these bottles, guys. It's gonna last you for a while. You'd have to paint multiple dragons in the same color to go through that much paint. Or bunches of terrain. Hey, Roger. Oh, the Super Dungeon Explorer. Don't, yeah. At first I was sad I didn't back that, and then I wasn't. But yeah, so pretty much that's where I'm at. And as time passes, I'll tell you maybe a little bit, like I did today, about some colors that I decided that weren't that useful, that Reaper may or may not decide to take my recommendation on. But I'm not gonna like muddy the water immensely. Because, like I said, they could throw it all out. Ron could say, Anne is crazy. Why did she recommend canceling this color? Another thing that actually fed into this, you guys, is colors that you guys regularly talk about on stream that you love. If there was a color that I heard you guys like regularly talking on stream that you really enjoyed, chances are it stayed. As long as I could, as long as it actually fit a niche, and if there was something really close to it, then I had to let that thing go. So you had an impact on my decisions. It's the colors that nobody ever said they liked. You know, the colors you never bring up. Yeah, I think I kept both of those. I mean, you know Walnut's not going to get canceled. It's unique, and it has survived from the days of Pro Paint. And even after Pro Paint was canceled, I still kept around pots of Pro Paint Walnut. So you could pretty much, like, Walnut and Pure White are guaranteed to stay. I also, by the way, gave Ron, along with the spreadsheet where I gave him my recommends, I also gave him, in that spreadsheet, there's a column where I laid out my reasoning behind why I decided that this color wasn't necessary. So it kind of, like, gives a little bit of insight. And sometimes I pulled from my knowledge of things not selling. Like regular reds, when you get to around blood red and colors like that, regular reds sell. Dark reds don't sell very well. Especially the really dark reds. They do not move. I remember, even in the first 54, which normally sold like crazy, 9001 didn't move. It would move just because it was part of racks, so people would like see it in the store and pick it up. But if you put it on a different part of the rack, it would completely stall. Because there just doesn't seem to be, people don't really like reds that are too dark. They want a red that's more vibrant. So I'm going to do take some of this this lighter color, and I'm going to, yeah, blood red is safe. It's always been in our top 3 or 4 selling paints. Part of that is, again, because it's on the top part of the rack. We proved one year at Gen Con, we did an experiment. We brought 2 sets of paint racks, and one rack we set up as standard, and the other one we reversed. And sure enough, colors that normally didn't sell because they were normally on the bottom rack, the bottom of the rack, started selling because they were on the top of the rack and people saw them and then they were interested in them. So it's a very interesting thing, rack placement. Because people look at a whole rack of paint and they just get tired of looking. They're just like, I need a red. And so they grab the one they see it near the top that looks good to them. Skeleton Key is a metallic. And I recommended keeping it, Crows, just so you know. Like I said, Reaper, however, can decide to ignore my recommends. I recommended keeping Skeleton Key because typically metallics sell well. Weird colored metallics also sell decently. If they're too weird, they don't too much. I think there might be 1 or 2 I recommended canning of the metallics. But in general, I kept almost all of them. And part of that is because the Bones metallics use different flakes, right? So they are actually fundamentally different. So we're doing edging around each of these stones just to make them stand out a little bit more. Right, but I kept some, Kerniko. I just didn't keep all. That's the thing. I recommended keeping Succubus Kiss because it's pretty unique, even though it is also pretty transparent. I don't remember. I recommended keeping Dragon Red. I recommended keeping Burgundy Wine. I think those are the main dark reds I recommended keeping. Because we just had, the problem is that concept of reds sell. Okay, so here's how the bloat happens, guys. Okay, reds sell, we need a new red. Okay, well, we made a new red. Oh wait, now I need to make a triad around it. So now I have to create yet another dark red that's somehow different from all the other dark reds, and then it sits there and doesn't sell. So the triad system actually is directly responsible for a lot of bloat. Because I had to get very close to other colors in order to do decent highlights and shadows for some colors. Like we didn't have, there's no room. There's just like, okay, I need a shadow for this. Oh no, it's going to be really close to these other 2 colors, but I have to have this kind of shadow for this color, so I guess I'm stuck. Yeah, small racks sell more paint than big one. They do. Yep, everything at eye level, and you don't get, like, information overload from looking at it. Yep. Like, I think if Reaper really wanted to really be good, they'd make 2 small racks, 2 120 color racks, and they'd put them side by side at eye level. But what they do is their own choice. I'm just glad I got to give a little bit of feedback, so we'll see. We'll see. That's why I also gave my reasoning. So just in case my reasoning is faulty, like I said, oh, this doesn't sell, Ron could say, actually, that sells a lot, so let's actually bring that one back in and cancel a different one, right? A lot of the Bones range stayed. There we go. All right, so I think we're ready for our glaze, guys. But yeah, you should feel pretty safe. I tried to keep, like, I kept a good core, guys. I'm very happy with the result. And like I said, I can easily create, like, a list of new recommended triads. It's just we're going to be doing it more like, I hate to say it, but more like Games Workshop does it than the way that we used to do it. Instead of having all these extraneous colors so that you just have a triad all in order, it's going to be more like, here's your recommended highlight and shadow for this color. Alrighty, so now we're going to take this light color that I mixed, which is leather brown plus white, right there. We're going to make a glaze, and we're going to put it, that's going to give it that kind of pale, washed out look that we've got in the front. Right. They're shinier. They definitely have more of a shine to them, Crazy Paw, and the silvers can be thinned much more than a normal mica flake can. But yeah, some people like the usual ones. I think if you're taking photographs of your minis, the standard mica based ones in core are your better choice, but that it's up to you. It's just I've heard feedback on that level, and I tend to agree. Because they're less shiny, they're less subject to ambient light sources, and that means they tend to photograph better. That's their decision, though, Hyper. I mean, we got a lot of mileage out of triads over the years, but remember, the other thing that they're probably watching is triad sales. And also, stocking all those triads takes up a lot of room. I mean, I made the triad system because I felt like it was a good call. No, there's no. I was just talking about kind of my reasoning process, Richard. I am here to take the brunt of the dissatisfaction. I mean, over the years, we've always had people telling us, you know, oh, we think it's a bad idea that you did this, or I think it's a bad idea you did that. And only time will tell, but it's always the company's call. Whether they think they're going to get, you know, more positives out of a change than negatives. All right, so again, glazing, we're putting it all over the top. You can see the milky stuff going down. There it is. Now I'm going to come rinse out my brush, dry it off. Now, my question, though, is after this, is Reaper going to continue just making new colors for things like Kickstarters? Because then they're just going to end up back in the same problem. The thing to do is probably to, for Kickstarters, bring back some of the most popular canceled colors for those Kickstarter sets, but only for a limited time. Like, that's honestly what I would do. I wouldn't waste time unless they felt like they could make a better version of some colors. So there we go. Or you let that down there. Since I thinned my glaze more this time, it's going to take a couple layers. I talk to you guys about this sometimes, about how with glazes, go lightweight, because you can always do another layer. So that's what we're going to do with this. It's come up a little bit, but it's still more saturated. You can see it's more vibrant. This is more washed out. I want more of the washed out color back here. Well, and you might be right, or you might be wrong, Hyper. The thing is, we can recommend triads, and we can even package triads based on my recommendations. So I can't tell you that triads are going away. What I can tell you is that existing triads have been completely disrupted and ripped apart by the changes I advised. So if triads continue, they will be triads that are put together from the remaining paints, logically. And I kept paints on purpose so that you could reconstruct new triads. So you won't get the existing triads, but you may well get, I can make you a new red triad in like 5 seconds, based on what I kept. So Reaper may well keep triads. I don't know. Like I said, they could use what I gave them or their own choices and just make new triads out of the paints that are left. Yeah. See, that's the thing. People hate change. I get it. But at the same time, people like change because then they get something new to look at. So it's always, you're always like dancing the line between those things. And as a company, sometimes you have to take that chance. Yeah, that's what I would do, Laura, because if you bring them back on a limited basis, you can make those colors available again, making your customer base happy, but you don't have to get you don't have to make new stock room because you're going to put them in the line forever, like we did up to now. The labels, I think, will change because they're just bones, and the difference between bones and core is going away. But again, this is a whole big project. It's Reaper's baby. I put in my 2 cents, which turned out to be more like 25 cents. Considering the amount of work it took me. Oh, see, I really like the pastels. It's always handy to have a fast highlight, like you can just reach for and mix into your mid and then build up a highlight. Like I like pastels, but that's just me. But yeah, but you're gonna run into that. I mean, with a lot of anything that's not a standard color, you're gonna run into somebody going, I don't know how to use that, right? So now we're starting to get that faded out look on the backside with the second glaze. It'll be Reaper MSP, is what Ron told me, Laura. Everything will just become Master Series paints, just like it was back in the beginning. What we originally planned, and then everything went off the rails. Pathfinder, by the way, stays Pathfinder and stays itself. No changes to Pathfinder. Like Paizo is apparently happy with their line. All right, there we go. I think that's pretty good, actually. Yeah, I think we're good. Got our happy little stony floor. I'm going to just take some black and neaten up around the edge here. Yeah. Yeah, it's true, Hyper. And some people are like that, and other people have told me they like the plain labels. So, it's just personal preference. When it's a game store owner, then it directly influences how much exposure we get. It's just the chance we take, right? I mean, maybe another side effect of shortening the line, of bringing it within more normal parameters will be, the fact that we maybe can actually use nicer labels. Like, if we have fewer colors, then it becomes more practical to stock pre-made labels. But I don't know that that's going to happen, because it would mean that we have to raise prices. And Reaper has always tried to keep the hobby affordable. So that's pure conjecture on my part. It's nothing. Kaz, it's a IPVO. IP as in Peter, EV as in Victor, O. It is a VZX. There's another version that is not wireless. I probably didn't need the wireless version, but it was the one that was there on the Amazon on sale, so I took it. They really shot up in price over the pandemic because everybody needed them. Like teachers used them primarily for projection and for class, and obviously during the pandemic everybody went virtual, so the price went really high. I don't know what the price has settled at this point. When I bought it, it was $300 or $400. Let's look. But it's lasted me for years. I'm always kind of nervous. I'm always like, maybe I should just buy another one. Let's see. They got the VZR. Yeah, $231. $289. Okay, so yeah, not bad at all, actually. There's the VZX. Okay, so the one that I have, exactly the one that I have, is $369. The Beefolk VZX. The teal one. Yeah, so I purchased it in January 2020. It's lasted for 4 years plus, with no hiccups. And I love it. Yeah, it's like, but this is like if I lose this, I've lost my income for as long as it takes to get me another one. Like, because I use this for everything I do that brings in money. And what happens when Amazon is out of them? I do tend to be that kind of panic buyer. Like, I'm working on it, trying to mitigate my instinctual urge to always have a backup. Like, it's part of my brain. My brain just wants to be prepared for everything. So it's like, can you really trust technology? Don't you think you should buy another one, just in case? That's my brain. Yeah, they do go on sale. Although I think that price is actually really close to what I paid, so it would seem that there is some, like, I don't think it's overpriced. There we go. So a little bit of black just to touch up and neaten up that base rim, and we are done. I can sign the bottom, and we can get to work on B. Yeah, okay, Sagebrush, yeah, you and me. You and me are the prepared people in the room. I just hate not being prepared. Like, I hate it. Like, when I can see very plainly what I have to do to be prepared, my brain wants me to enact that. That's why whenever David is like, oh no, we're out of blah, I'm like, don't worry, there's another one in the drawer. That's me. There we go. Dude. Oh, this paint is thin. Gonna get a little bit of this. But yeah, I do like having backups because when I want something, I want it, and I like to have it on hand. And when it's something that is as important as this document cam is to my livelihood, I get antsy if I don't have a backup. But for the most part, I know that that's not really, I mean, I'll probably have some kind of sign before it conks out completely, so kind of depending on that. Oh dear. Yeah, the seasonal flavors are evil too. I have to battle my innate urge to buy more of the seasonal flavors. Alrighty, so there we go. Vamp Barb is ready. He's done. Hey, we can actually fix focus now. There we go. There we go. Cinnamon Coke. Yeah. Oh, really easy to make. Interesting. Yeah, it's just like vanilla. Like lately, I've been looking at. I've been doing more like protein powder stuff, and they have all these flavors, and I'm like, but it's actually, why should I buy it when I can just put cocoa powder in it? A spicy Coke, yeah, whatever. Well, Pop-Tarts are, yeah, terrible processed food. They have no redeeming qualities, really. They have no fiber. They're pure sugar. So I think your body's smart, Kodiak. Oh my god, yeah, I would be dead, Kuroniko. I would just be... Oh yeah, cinnamon syrup, yep. Yeah, more syrup. Yeah, that works. Fine line. For a long time, one of my commission clients complained that I hadn't signed a piece. And as somebody who had to go through the Reaper gallery more than once to figure out, like, who painted something, it's just really, really good to sign it. So I got in the habit. I mean, you could 3D print your bases, sure. That's certainly a solution, and then you don't have to worry about it. I'm not there. Usually I use Reaper's pre-done bases, so I just sign it. It only takes a moment. But yeah, if I don't sign it, then Ron's going to totally forget who painted it after, 6 months. So, all right, we're going to do B, and that means I need some free palette space, and that means I need to turn my palette so that I have some free wells. We don't usually work on 2 different miniatures in the course of one stream, but today we are. Almost over the cravings. Awesome. Good for you, Kuro. I'm so proud of you. That's so good. Good job. I destroyed all crackers in my home, and now I'm in withdrawal. All right, so I have on my phone Bumblebee reference images. Oh, yay! Kiki's food came. Good, good, good. Oh, I must have put it on a different thing. There we go. There's our little bees, our fuzzy little bees. So they have a really big black band around where their winglets come out. And then we've got a little yellow band. His wings are really high because he's a humanoid bee, so I'm probably going to have to put yellow around there, around his neck. And just put some black around the roots of the... He's so fuzzy. So, looks like we have 2 yellow bands and a white butt. That's what I'm seeing. So I can see where I think I'm going to make my yellow bands. The band around the head is really small, but we'll do yellow there. All right, so I'm going to get out my black indigo. I decided I wanted to use black indigo on this. If I can find it. It's in here somewhere. There it is. Alrighty. There. They are adorable. Alright. So I decided I wanted to use indigo, black indigo, for the black. Just so we don't have just a plain black. No drinks with calories rule. Yeah, that's where I'm at, Hyper. Protein drinks are like my only thing. And usually I mix the protein powder into things like my oatmeal. But I think I'm going to adopt a protein shake for lunch kind of thing with a salad. Because I can't give up my vegetable matter, but I want to make my lunch lower calorie and still get a decent amount of protein. So I'm going to try to do a salad and a chocolate protein shake for lunch today. But yeah, otherwise it's all just sparkling water for me. Sparkling water and regular water. I don't do anything with artificial sweeteners anymore because they don't react well in my gut. So, alrighty. So about a 5-to-1 here. I put a little extra black indigo into my well. And black indigo, as long as we don't put anything that's actually black on the model, black indigo is going to look black. Now, we might end up having a black base. In which case the black indigo is still probably going to look, you know, blackish, but it's then we'll be able to tell the difference. This is a cute little base, by the way, with the little flowers and stuff. Ah, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be mixing mine. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Protein's important. I didn't realize how important protein was before. I spent many years not understanding how important protein was. Then I started working out, and I was like, you know, I should up my protein. And then I started reading about it, and then I'm like, wow. Honestly, the way I always pull from sticky tack is I dig a fingernail down underneath, and I push up that way. I never pull on the model itself. I always do this. And if I have to unearth the base a bit, I mean, you can see how I do my sticky tack too. Is I push the sides up onto the base to fix it in place. But I usually don't do that 100% over everything. I always am keeping... There's always a place I can get under the base to pull it. If you don't have fingernails, you could use like the strong edge of a hobby knife, like, you know, like this. Go and pull it that way. Never use the real edge of the blade. Yeah, I mean, everybody's different as far as which meal they like to pare down, right? For me, I'm always eating dinner with David, and that's the most likely one to go over calorie. My breakfast, I love breakfast. Breakfast is my meal of the day. So lunch is really the expendable one. Often I'm not even really that hungry at lunch. So yeah. I'm going to paint the head black. I think I'll use, where's my Reaper brush? I've been base coating a lot with my Reaper brush lately. My Reaper Zero Klinsky. Yeah, see, and some people can give up breakfast and do the fasting thing, and it works great for them. My friend Bridget is like that. But I can't. I love, my breakfast is like the meal I look forward to the most out of every day. It would significantly reduce my enjoyment. So I want to look at the bee face and make sure all of the bee face is black. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like all of our little bee face. All of the little bee face is black. There it is. Cute little bee. Shiny little black eyes. Actually, they're dark brown. That's interesting. All right, cool. With the shiny little black eyes. Super shiny. Oh, that one has some lighter fuzz on its head. Yeah, I can't do that. Like, I do need to distribute my food a bit. Especially since I'm trying to up my protein to something above the minimum. Alright, I'm just going to paint the entire face with the black indigo, guys, and then we're just going to deal with making things stand out later. So I'm going to block in my blacks and yellows. And the nice thing about using a black indigo is that I can use pure black as a shadow for it if I want. It'll be a very subtle shadow because the black indigo is so close to black itself. But it does work. Yeah, I find that when I skip breakfast, I'm not a very happy camper. It's just the way my body seems to work. But lunch is totally optional for me. I'm much better having a nice like 450 calorie breakfast and then a very, very small lunch and then a good dinner. But yeah, everybody's different. All our metabolisms are different. The diet you're gonna like be best on is different, so. Alrighty. We've got our little bit that I'm gonna make yellow. I think we will kind of put in the black around here. Jason has kind of sculpted bits of this a little bit differently, so it actually makes it easier to kind of find a demarcation line where you can go, all right where we hit this pattern in the fur is where I'm going to put yellow in. And I'm gonna, because the wings usually are coming out of the black part, I am actually gonna line heavily around the wings with this black indigo. Oh no, the antennae were rubbing off paint on me. Oh yeah. Yeah, black indigo made the keep list. Well, for me. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, the fiber is important. I don't do Metamucil, but I do, it's the ingredients for Metamucil is psyllium husk. And I just put psyllium in my oatmeal. It's like, people underestimate how much difference that can make. Sounds like you have a good doctor who actually like understands the nutrition that works for you, Hyper. That's great. Sounds like a reasonable diet for me. Or to me, rather. Reasonable eating plan. All right, and all their little legs are going to be black, right? Bee legs are black. Pretty sure. They're actually brownish. The little bee limbs. I mean, they're mostly black. When they're backlit, they get brown. But when I look at them, yeah. They're pretty black. So, all right, we're going to do that. Alrighty, and then the butt of the bee is white. But do we have something between that? Do we have another little band? Yeah, we do. We have another little band of black before the white. So I'll have to do a little bit of it right here. A little white butt. That's funny, Kroniko. Yeah. Yeah, I've also been striving to have a good enough dinner that I don't need a late snack. The exception being like post-CrossFit, then I'll eat some cottage cheese when I come home around 8:15. But that's, I try to shut everything down by around 8 as far as eating. I do have a little bit of a fault there that I missed. There we go. There was an osprey just sitting along on the rail alongside the highway when I was in Florida after visiting my uncle. It was out on the Gulf side of Florida. And I looked over and there was an osprey. Just hanging out, you know, before he, it was in the channel that goes up on the bridge. Gosh, I cannot. Fort Lauderdale? It's not Fort. It's a different fort. But I never remember the town he lives in or near. But it was cool. He was just taking a break between fishing launches. Yeah, I tend to do best when I don't buy them as well. Crazy Paw. I try to keep the snack foods in my house, like some roasted almonds. You know I'm not going to go too crazy with those. I have to avoid things that I love because if I love it, I'm going to be tempted to eat more of it. I do the Stinger Dark. Yeah, I'm not obsessing too much, Guru. I'd like to be close. I like using natural references. You know it. Everybody knows that about me at this point. All right, so the little arms get to be dark. Holding onto his little pouch here. There we go. Get that in there. Just got his little paws hanging onto the stuff. And it looks like I'm going to be doing a band around the center. Right underneath those paws. I'm going to just actually extend it to just under that bag. That lets me put a dark line between the bag and the rest of the bee. So we'll make a stylistic choice there rather than a realistic one. And then another little band down here. There. Alrighty, and then the dark arms. We need dark arms. It's easier for me to block in the dark on it first and then deal with the yellow. Most saturated, the clears. Clear red, clear blue. For yellows, you want to go maybe to lantern yellow as well as to clear yellow, since the clear yellow is a green shade. But like lantern yellow, 9407. Blue frog. But otherwise, yeah, the clears, whenever you see, they're all in a row as far as item number. So 90, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. Clear red. And they're, for the most part, they're single pigment paints as well. And then you also, if you're picking up general pigments, you also want to pick up the oxides. 9331 through 9333. It's yellow ochre, oxidized brown, and oxidized red and oxidized brown. Those are single pigment paints. Those are the oxides. So they're going to be the best for mixing. Most people prefer orange phase yellows to green phase. They tend to be considered prettier and more useful. Isn't always true, but you don't really need clear blue if you get cyan blue shadow. As long as you have a primary blue, and I recommend cyan. Had to explain to my mother what cyan was. Because it turned out my gouaches had fanciful colors instead of regular artist names, and I was like, sigh. And then I proceeded to like swatch all of them and go, okay, so this is just a single pigment blah. This is that. It was just very silly. I'm like, alright, this is a phthalo green, no matter what they called it. Yeah, it's oxidized. They changed it. They changed a few names. Reaper did after I left. After I no longer was head of the paint department. Alright, arms. But yeah, if you get the oxides, the clears, and black and white, you're pretty much set. There's still, like a pigment you don't have that we use, but it's less necessary. And that's a raw umber. Which, if you really wanted, you could get an artist color for. A lot of paint lines don't even have it. I don't think Chimera has a raw umber. It's just not. It tends not to have great coverage, and it's got limited uses. Although it is a component, the necessary component of our first bone triad. There we go. Gonna do the underside of the wings here, just to put them in shadow. Plus, they also tend to be dark. Yes, you don't really need the orange phthalo or the orange clear. You can just mix lantern with clear red. Make sure to mix a lot more lantern yellow in there than just a touch of clear red. And just add tiny touches of clear red until you get close. Red is a higher diffusion pigment, and so it will take over when mixed into yellow, which is quite weak. There we go. Our bee is coming along. Yeah, the liners, I recommended the liners all staying, I believe. Just because whenever we've got something that's pretty unique and useful, Also, they managed to make it past, like, even the sepia liner made it past the first cut that Ed did. So I have to assume that sales aren't terrible. Or he would have cut that color. So I believe I recommended keeping them all in the next round of cancellation. I almost canceled some of the clears. I almost recommended canceling some. The one that I almost canceled was purple. And the reason is that it is so very easy to mix. You take your clear magenta, you add a touch of clear blue, boom, you have clear purple. Since it wasn't a single pigment color, I was tempted to nix it. But when I looked at it, it felt like more useful to me to keep all the clears intact. Sepia liner is good when you're doing specifically. I find it a very specific usage if I use it. But it's very good for if you're blending NMM gold. It can help you make a transition to shadow. It can also, remember I use gray liner for NMM as well for that same reason. They're easier to blend and layer with. But what it really, I think, is great for is when you've got a very very pale or fair miniature with a very light skin tone and blonde hair. Then I would use it to line between the face and the skin, and I would probably also use it for eyebrows on blonde characters. Yeah, sepia is much lighter and yellower. I made sepia liner for James Wobble. He requested it. Yeah, but I kept purple after all. Because when I looked at other purples, there were other purples that made more sense to cancel. Or recommend it. Like I said, I'm going to reiterate this till the cows come home, until Reaper actually announces what they're going to cancel and when. But I made a recommendation, and Reaper is absolutely within their rights to toss it out the window. They could choose to cancel all the clears if they wanted. I would be sad if they did, but, it would just essentially mean that I didn't buy Reaper clears anymore. I would end up buying Chimera instead, probably. Or using scale color. I'd essentially have to recommend somewhere else for people who wanted pure pigments and saturated colors, which would be a shame. We were one of the first people doing that before people really started doing that, so it's something that people never realize because we are bad at advertising. There we go. Just needed to darken his little head. Yeah. Use it for shadows on the blonde hair. And for that line around the face and the hair. The shadows in the face, between the face and the hair. It's a very limited usage liner, but, it still has uses, so... And it's an unusual one. Mostly I kept it because I'd kept all the rest of the liners, and I was like, if Reaper wants to do a 6-pack of liners, then having these 6 liners still in the line would be good. Oh yeah, I mean, 2 paint will go bad. Or were you talking about having regular miniatures paints from them? Regular miniatures paints, they're heavier bodied, so they are going to fall out of solution in latex a little faster. I find any paint like that, Vallejo has the same problem. Superwash I didn't name, but clears I did, Hyper Bunny. But I was pretty much like, I was trying to, essentially in those days, remember that was very much at the beginning of my paint line design career. And I learned a lot as I went on. It took, like I said, I did it for almost 2 decades, so that was a lot of time. But I had to warn people at that time because at the time I created those, all everybody wanted was coverage. So there was no demand for single pigment paints. That hadn't gotten there yet. And so giving them a name like single pigment red or single pigment yellow, blah blah, wouldn't have worked. Like nobody wanted that. Nobody knew they wanted that yet. So by saying clear, I was essentially warning the consumer this is not a high coverage paint. So the naming was very intentional. When you always have to look at context, right? And in that time, coverage was king, and nobody was looking for pure pigments. I wanted to make those myself because as a 2D artist, I understood how useful they would be. Oh, the little bottles, a lot of shaking. Yeah. The big problem that people do with fair-skinned models, Shadow Raven, is they don't go dark enough. A lot of people will grab fair skin and they'll just use it, but it's way too light. You have to put in some shadows. I recommend actually starting fair skin from around the tan skin level, and then going up to fair skin, and then up to like a level above that. And I tend to mix pure white into my tan skin. I've come a long way since I created those first skin triads, and if I did it again, I would have gone darker with all of them. Alrighty, I think we have all of our little limbs. I can't really see behind the shield, but I can darken it back there. It's mostly his little paw, his little arm, so I can flood that area with dark, essentially. Hey, Blue Frog. Yeah, so, yeah, some of those naming conventions, for the most part, I'm very happy with all of my names. Like now, I think rebranding the clears, I would, if it were me, if I were still in the paint department, if I were still head of the paint department, and the main line designer for MSP, I would take an opportunity when we reboot the line to reformulate and rebrand and rename all the clears. The first skin triads, tan skin, fair skin, like all of our skin tones are in triads, Madashine. So it's fair skin shadow, fair skin highlight. But I find that, when I made them, it made sense. But now I find that they're not dark enough, and they're not like, it's problematic. And again, here you guys have exposed another recommend, but I recommended actually killing fair skin highlight and shadow, tan skin highlight and shadow, dark skin highlight and shadow, because I think I can make a more effective skin triad for you by just going from tan skin to fair skin and putting like fair maiden flesh, or I don't think I kept maiden flesh, one of the like peachy flesh or pale skin at the top. I thought olive skin was still in, but olive skin highlight was gone. I just printed out these. Let me see if I'm wrong. Oh yeah. No, olive skin's still in the line. Right there, 9221. Yeah. Yeah, the dusky skin triad just wasn't. It's just not popular. Just what it is. However, you can recreate it. I mean, I did a whole PDF on that for my Patreon a while ago. Just use the nut brown from Bones. If you add varying degrees of white and off-white to nut brown, you will get something equivalent to dusky skin. Alrighty, I think we've got everything darked in. So now we can think about what we're going to do for our yellow. I'm going to do something a little different. We're going to actually start with an oxide yellow mixed with a little bit of lantern. Oxide gives our yellow a little bit more coverage. Lantern is also higher coverage than some other yellows. So we're going to do that. Olive skin I recommended keeping. I recommended keeping the middle skin color of all the skins. I mean, olive skin is like, it's a Mediterranean skin tone. It's like limited usage, right? And it's very, like a lot of our specialty skin tones, like the later ones, are limited usage. They're not meant to be used for every model. And some of them, like olive skin, can be problematic to match colors with. Hey, New Code, thanks for that resub. Because olive skin lacks that undertone of red, which is what, you know, it can be problematic when you're trying to choose what your model's wearing, not to clash with it. I wanted to put it in there because it's a human skin tone that I think doesn't get enough play, but it can be difficult. Comes across quite muted, and that little hint of flatness from the lack of a rosy tone, like I said, can be difficult. All right, so we're going to put a couple drops of yellow. This is oxide yellow or yellow ochre, as the case may be. Pretty much identical. Yeah, if you're looking for more, yes, this is true, Fine Line. I'll agree with you on there. For something like that, because they're supposed to have that yellowish skin tone, right, with no reds in it. Yeah, that makes sense a lot. Let's see if I can get this to... Oh, gonna need a pokey tool again. Pokey tool. I'll use it sometimes to check paint consistency, seriously. I don't need to these days. I mean, I've been painting for so long now that I'm able to, for the most part, judge my paint consistency just by looking at how it falls off the side of the palette. Pardon me while I just get these guys in there. Okay, so 3 drops of the oxide, or the ochre, and 2 drops of the lantern yellow. But when I'm testing paint for layering, for example, there's a specific consistency you're looking for. So I'll do something like, here, I'll do something like do a stripe like this. For those of you who ever had the Warlord book, you'll remember my painting guide in there, and I talked specifically about this. You can also use a flat tile for it. But what you're looking for layering is you're looking for, after you do a zigzag like this, you're looking for where it's pooling and where it's thinnest. And you want it to be full color, just like the color in the well, like just the strongest color, like true for its pooling. And you want it to be almost invisible where it's pulled thin. And so this surface for me is, if I'm doubtful, if I'm not sure I've got the right consistency for layering, I go and I do a zigzag like this and I look at it. For olive skin is Mediterranean skin technically, but you know what? Mediterranean skin can be any color like that. It's just that olive skin tends to come from that part of the world, right? So there's no PDF for it because I haven't done it. It's that's a very specific skin tone. I'd be less likely to do a PDF on specifically like Mediterranean skin tones and more on unusual skin tones from MSP. That would include the olive skin, but wouldn't be just that. But yeah, so essentially the top flat part can be used for testing paint consistency, seriously. Because there are a lot of times when you're thinning your paint for various foundational techniques that you need to kind of look at the degree of transparency you've achieved. And sometimes, especially if you're not like super confident in your consistency and stuff in your mixing, you're going to find that you need to actually test it. Yeah, I don't know if I'll do it, Polly. I can look at it. I can put it on my list. I mean, there's not... I mean, for me, I need to be able to find something to say about it. There isn't... I mean, it's just like any skin tone. This is where I always come up against when people ask for non-human skin advice, too. It's like, well, it's kind of the same as any skin tone. You highlight and shade it. And then sometimes you add rosy tones to various places, depending. If you want to like, depict blood flow. But, I mean, if you're asking for what is the highlight and shadow for olive skin, yeah, I could do that. I mean, that's mostly what makes a skin tone, like, look real, right? Is adding those rosy tones to it. Like, when you just do... Have I added rosy? Yes, I have. When you just do a skin tone, it tends to look very flat. Here. So when you just do a skin tone with no rosy tones, it tends to look very flat. It can still look okay because I've got shadows and highlights. But when you add rosy tones around the ears, around the cheeks, usually around the nose, although on 28mm you often can't, lower lip. But you can see the reddish tones I've used on her. It makes, as you can see, a huge difference. I think I'm going to... really easy to mix, crows. Really easy to mix with the oxides. Oxide brown, clear red, and a tiny touch of yellow ochre, oxide yellow, with some white. But yeah, the redstone stuff, it didn't sell, so it's not coming back. But, I mean, it's pretty much a red-brown with a little bit of the oxide yellow in it to warm it up. And then you add white depending on what lightness or darkness, what value you want. All right. I'm trying to decide if I want to put the yellow right over this gray or if I want to undercoat it a little bit. And I think I might want to undercoat it a bit. So, because I want to be able to highlight it well, I think I'm going to use rich leather. Denim blue is just blue with a little bit of oxide brown in it, oxidized brown. Or any brown, technically, can shift it that way. But yeah, so just start with a dark blue, like Brion Navy or something. Or Ritterlick, although Ritterlick's really dark, so you probably want to go with something a little lighter and add some brown to it. That tends to make that washed out blue that you see in denim. Yeah, I'm gonna go with rich leather, I think. I don't want to put yellow over the gray because it can get green. So I think I'm gonna go with that. Usually I am, Matt. That's what I like to do because adding a little red to the medium skin tone gives you a color that's going to work with the rest of the skin tones. I don't actually use I usually don't use a medium red or a light red though. I usually use a darker red like Dragon Red. Deep red actually was my go-to for that for a while, but Dragon is just as good. I like to use a darker red because it just gives me a more muted color because of the other pigments in play. And I don't want a very vibrant color for blush. I want a muted color. If you go too pink, you're just going to look like a bad makeup experiment. So that's why you use something that's off. Hey, Crowley. Yep. Have fun. Have fun with your meetings. All right, I'm going to actually go a little bit more of this rich leather. I got a whole new bottle of rich leather, so now I can, like, spend my old rich leather with impunity. I'm going to use rich leather. I'm going to actually add two things to make it a good base for this yellow. I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow itself. And I'm going to add a little tiny bit of white. because I want it to cover. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of white out, put it just on my brush. Just mix it in there. Even a tiny bit of white can add a lot of coverage without shifting the color too much. There, perfect. So now I have a bit of my yellow in there to help it go together, and I've got a little bit of white to give it more opacity. But yeah, if you're doing actual makeup and you want that slightly artificial look, then you can use more of a regular medium red. But I find it's very, only on much younger, only on very young models would I consider doing it. Because it tends to be very, very cotton candy, teenage girl bedroom kind of color. Or preteen girl bedroom kind of color. Yeah, just add a tiny bit of white. I mean, that's how you deal with a lack of coverage in any color. And I mean, just watch an oil painting stream and you'll get that right away. You either add white or you add another color that's very similar that has better coverage. I did both because I added a bit of my oxide yellow mix, and oxide yellow does have better coverage. The oxides in general, brown and red have the best coverage. Yellow is kind of medium, but if you've got a paint that is a yellow-based paint that could use more coverage, adding a little bit of oxide can help. I think normally I would just add white if I wasn't working with something that required an oxide. So this is just a base coat to give us something to work from when we get to that yellow. I like to start a little darker so I have room to work up, and then this color becomes our shadow, guys. And when we actually get down to starting real painting, instead of just blocking in color, I'll likely be using some longer strokes to blend these colors into each other at the edges. Alrighty. But yeah, the answer is always just to add a tiny touch of white. You'd be astonished how much even a tiny bit of white goes pretty far. And it doesn't appreciably change the color. So I put up my motivation PDF yesterday. Did anybody take a look at it? If you're on my Patreon. In the $10 level, it was a beefy PDF. Nothing like earth-shaking in it, but hopefully some good strategies for getting past stalling out. But I get the feeling, Laura, that you don't stall out very much, too. That PDF is pretty much going to be the outline for a bunch of different videos on the mindset and mini painting that I'm going to do for YouTube eventually. It's almost the start of the month, so pretty soon I can start doing more YouTubes. End of the month, it always is just like, especially when I've taken some time off to go see my family or do whatever, it's definitely time for the rest of the Patreon to take priority over the YouTube videos. I may just try to take a couple days at the start of March and just shoot a crap ton of YouTube videos, like all day, just shoot. so that I have more of a backlog that I can post regularly with. No. I've motivation isn't usually the problem. We all want to paint. The problem is execution. The problem is when motivation breaks down before it gets to execution. So most of the blocks that we have aren't actually about getting motivated. Although it can be if we forget why we want to paint, why we're drawn to painting. Besides, I don't get doggo kisses when I paint. I get doggo kisses when I'm not painting. Kiki's pretty good at leaving mom alone when she's in the serious mode. When I'm working, she'll come up and she'll want hugs. She'll ask for hugs. Yep, and that's a big part of it. And I talk about that actually right at the start of the PDF. It's like there's just sometimes when stress or other outside factors are going to make you not want to paint, and you know what? That's okay. Just deal with those things, and you don't feel like you have to. It's your hobby. Like, you shouldn't be surprised if you're really stressed out or really like sleep deprived that you don't have the energy to paint. Shouldn't be a surprise. It's not actually a huge underlying problem. It's just external. Those are the easiest things because those things will pass naturally. They aren't a long-term dysfunction that keeps popping up. Finishing is something almost every artist like struggles with, and honestly, that's when, if I'm having that problem, that's when I disconnect. I plug in a podcast, or I plug in an audiobook, or I plug in something I can watch or listen to, half watch, not really watch, and mostly listen to. That'll keep me distracted, and then I'll just do the work. Because if I have something distracting me from bemoaning the fact that it's boring, then I just use that as the mechanism to just work. I use streams that way too. If I'm staring at a model and I'm like, in the past I have used streaming to finish models because talking to the audience distracts me, and that means my brain isn't sitting there whining about the fact that it doesn't want to work on this model. And I just get it done. I just have to trick my brain into like being distracted by other things, shinier things, while I do the work. Sometimes there is no solution other than doing the work. People hate to hear that. Everybody wants a magic bullet. Everybody wants everything to be effortless. Effortless is the exception rather than the rule. All right, so we've got some yellow coming in. Yeah, the routine. Yep. Yeah, when the routine gets disrupted, then that can be definitely a temporary block. But again, it's just a temporary thing, right? So sometimes it's just being patient and waiting, getting through that temporary thing. Like with me, I've learned that health stuff really stresses me out, and I don't have the energy to do as much creatively. And I keep thinking that it's not stressing me out as much as it actually is. And then, the minute it's passed, I'm like, boing, full of creative energy. And I'm like, oh, I guess that the health crap really did take it out of me, right? I'm good at deceiving myself that way. But yeah, the best thing to do if you're stressed or tired or, you've got something external, worried about something with your family or yourself, the best thing to do is, if you don't feel like doing the painting, don't do it. You just, sometimes it's just not going to be ideal. Yeah, like if you put a big noise blocking headset on, Crows, would they still bother you? Because I've used that before. If I'm forced to work around other people. But also be aware that if you have a really strong ability to focus, the best thing for you can honestly be to get somewhere you can close the door. Sometimes we can't, right? Sometimes we have to keep an eye on the puppy or the kids or the whatever. Great. Great, Crazy Pot. That's great. One of the things I recommend in the PDF is if you've got a streamer that you like to listen to and interact with. And I actually encourage people to do this on my Saturday stream, which is Saturdays at 3:30 USA Central Time. But paint along with the streamer. Get out your stuff, sit down, act like you're at Paint Club. Type a question into chat or a comment every once in a while. Joke around, feel social. Painting with people can help you also to get through the boring parts of a mini or the end of a mini, because again, you're distracting the part of your brain that is bored. Because a lot of the time, that is, the love has died, you're at the end of the mini, you've spent hours on it, you're really just kind of done with it, and so you just don't feel as motivated to work on it. And if that is the case, then the best thing you can do to finish it is just to distract your brain with something else while you work on it. That way your brain has something happy to be engaged with, and in the meantime, you can just paint. You take a while to get up to speed, Korniko? Big big headphones and the disapproving hand on your desk. Yes, disapproving hand. But yeah, sometimes that's boundaries too, right? Is that people are used to us constantly being there for them, and so they expect to be able to interrupt us when we really want or need our own time. And sometimes if you really have trouble, or you really can't just set boundaries, like I said, if you've got small kids or dogs to watch, the best thing you can do is then to make your painting at a time of day where they're going to bed. A lot of writers do this. Moms and dads who are writers and they've got to mind the kids all day. They just wait till the kids are in bed, and that is their writing time. Right then, they get their tea or their drink of choice, and they huddle down and get their writing out. Because they can't just close the door earlier in the day. Not until the kids are older. Yeah. Oh, true crime. Yeah, no thank you. Right. Yeah, and when it's a refuge, then that's the best thing your painting can be for you, Roger. When you actually feel itchy when you don't get it, that's perfect. Then you know that you're getting only good things out of your painting. Usually, when you're like that, you don't really get blocked per se. Because your painting brings you so much happiness, it tends to be something you reach for. So you tend not to get those hang-ups because you're just so happy to be doing it. So I'm just doing a little bit of lining. But yeah, motivation, execution, productivity, all those things are intertwined. They're not separate. But yeah, if you have the kind of brain, though, that, and a lot of us mini painters do, that is constantly distracted by the new shiny object, probably the main reason you're not finishing a model is boredom. And you may not even realize it. You may not feel bored with the model, but somewhere in your brain, somewhere in the deep level of your brain, it's decided that, it's gotten as much out of this as it can, and it wants something new. I get frustrated with this with my brain all the time. I have a brain that always does this. And it was sneaky. I didn't realize how sneaky it could be about it. It was just I'm not really feeling it. Well, I'm not feeling it because my brain just decided we were done. So sometimes I have to give my brain a good talking to and go, brain, going to sit down and finish this model tonight. It is almost. It's a little bit off of a complementary. If I had gone with an orange yellow, then it would be really complementary, true complementary. It's close though. Yeah, it's close. Whoa, lot of things. Yeah, and that can be the shiny thing. That can be the shiny thing, Hyper. Your brain is just bored. It just wants a new shiny, right? And that's like I said, that's where I start doing the distractions thing. Painting with people, along with people, just get out that one model. Tell your brain to just sit down for a bit and just could distract it by watching a cool movie that you've seen before, so that you're not distracted to just watch the movie. Something with a good soundtrack, or great dialogue. What David does is he always puts on like legal dramas or something like that, and that's all dialogue. He doesn't have to watch it, and he sits and paints while he listens to the TV. When something isn't looking good to me, at what point do I stop trying to fix it and start over? It depends on how far it's gone. Although, you've seen me change things on stream, although relatively not very often. And the reason for that is the way that I paint. Because I'm going in sections, I can see problems coming, right? I usually notice if what I'm doing doesn't look good, and I stop and I redo it right then. But I'm not going to repaint the whole model. I'm just going to repaint that one part, right? And when I do have a problem, it's usually because I've ignored something about color theory. I see. So you paint every once in a while, but you paint for, a long time when you do paint, Hyper. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you have good focus. Well, if you really don't like it, and if you look at it and the thought of painting it over just makes you feel tired, just reprime or whatever. I never strip models. I just always just reprime them. But I almost never do that, Shadow. I almost never do it, because I'll always start with the color I most want, and then color theory protects me from there on out. Color theory and contrast protect me. I just don't. Like, it's like so rare, it's so vanishingly rare that, and usually at that point, I won't even drop the model in the bath, because you know what? It's annoyed me, I'll throw it out. It happens like every once in a long time. But if I am that frustrated, the fact is that repainting that model isn't going to appeal. Like, I'm just done with the model at that point. If it looks crappy, I don't like it, and I can't easily fix it, and I'm not as invested in the model, it's probably going in the trash, honestly. But usually, if something's not working, it's usually one color that's off. And I say this having given lots of people feedback at ReaperCon when they walk up and they're like, something's not working. I'm like, it's this color. Change it to this. But yeah. Sometimes you do need to leave it overnight, but if you've left it overnight for several days and it's not improving. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I took time off, so I can go a little late. Oh, but wait, and there's no Luca today? I assume you would have told me, Quindy, if there was an alpaca waiting in the wings. Oh, we imported him instead of deporting him? Oh, right, he's teaching. Oh, right. Is he an Adepticon? Or is he doing like around the country seminars? Yeah, I know. Oh, the brush jay. I like when the big blue bird comes by. Is he teaching one in your neighborhood, Quindy? Do you finally get to meet him? I think I'm done with my base coat on this, guys, so I think we're going to hold it. We're going to halt it right where it is. You don't think Adepticon? Oh, it's the Vegas thing. Oh, okay. Aw. Right. That's right. Yeah, that makes sense. The Las Vegas Open. LVO. LVO. Yeah, I should have, like paid more attention and, like, gone out there to meet the Luca. Except, Quindy, I'd want to import you. I think we'd need a united front to actually meet that man in person. Yes, Seattle. That place where David's from. Oh, Lord. I haven't thought about other colors on this model at all yet, as an example. I won't until I have, like, the black indigo and the yellow up, and then I'm going to start looking at it and really feeling out what I need to do. Probably thinking about something like a red, because red, yellow, blue triad. Probably looking at red, magenta. Orange is probably too close to the yellow. But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking right now, guys. And of course, some nice browns and the metallics. I like the thistle. Well, we will have to do purple. So we'll do our purple and magenta, I think. Well, maybe we'll use the red. The red we'll use will be magenta because the thistles will need to be purple for sure. That's what I'm thinking. He's cute. He's cute, and most of him is B, so he's actually really simple. Oh, I forgot to do his little... Oh, it's gauntlet, okay. I was like, wait, his little hand, but then it's actually in a glove, so... Yeah, I mean, there isn't much to paint other than Mr. B. We have shoulder pads, the pouch, another pouch, wings, weapons, shield. So he's actually really simple. It's a base red on a mech, and it just isn't looking right. If it's red and black, and it's just not looking right, is the red even? I mean, is it too dark? Red and black always go together, so the fact that it isn't looking right, quote unquote, not looking right is, like, impossible to diagnose. Like, it suggests to me that it's not looking like you had imagined it, Shadow Raven. So the question is the red too muted or too dark, or is it too bright? Yeah, he's a cute little bee. He'll be fun to paint. Once we can get his little expression in. And get his eyes very shiny. The red is going to orange. Ah, so that essentially is surface control. So your orange highlights have gotten too big. Tone them down. Grab your medium red and paint it over a bunch of the orange. When your red goes to orange, you've essentially covered too much of the surface with orange. Remember that you have to have at least like 50% of the surface the color you want it to look. So that's an easy fix. I wouldn't strip that. I would just take out your medium red, whatever it is, paint it over like 50% of the orange you've got, and see if that fixes it. And then just brighten up the orange around like the panel lines where the red is. Yeah, but clear red can also not take down the orange enough. Like, I like blood red a little bit more there because it's cold. You could use magenta, but then you might really, like, get too muted on it, so... I know, what's your middle red, Shadow Raven? What medium red did you use? Because, yeah, clear with enough layers can certainly do it. But because it tends to be a bit thin. Brilliant? Okay. Yeah, Brilliant will work. It's very close to clear red. Yeah, Brilliant is not an orange red. Brilliant is a middle of the road primary red. So, yeah, cover up half of your orange with Brilliant red. Thin it down, just brush it, layer it over that. And then take a brighter orange and just hit the top, like the top side of your panels on the mech to bring up like sunrise orange, something punchy. And you'll be fine. It is a really easy fix. Yes. It is true. Yep. Yeah, clear red is definitely one you can use for that. I just caution to people because sometimes you won't lose all the orange in the first layer, especially if you've thinned it. You can actually end up still with too much orange. So you have to build it up. Keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it is good that way. I just wouldn't cover over all of the orange. I would just take Brilliant Red and just like layer it in, cover up half of it, and then assess. See if you need to cover up more of it. But if you cover up half of the orange you've got, it should be okay. Then just edge highlight. Like mechs, your normal painting is really different. And if you're not doing any lighting effect, if you're not doing zenith lighting on them, edge highlighting is the way to go. And so I would just, like I said, paint over half of your orange with red, take your bright orange, do those upper panels where the light's going to hit them. Like the edges of the panels that are toward the light. Hit those with orange. And you'll be fine. Like pop it up there. Mechs are some of the hardest things to paint well. Like airbrushing is where it's at. Airbrushing and edge highlighting. There's a reason I don't paint them. But yeah, vehicles are their own beast. They really are. It's why I haven't gotten into them. No, I don't think that mechs are good practice for smooth blending because they're super unforgiving, Shadow Raven. They're super duper unforgiving. You'd be much better getting like one of the cloud giants or something with like some flowing cloth and working on that. And like big skin tones. So it's not you. It's just the model wasn't as good for what you hope to get out of it. But yeah, it's much better to like when you want to practice your smooth blending. Capes are where it's at. Capes, loincloths. Models with big skin tones like ogres, giants. Yeah, mechs are super unforgiving because the flatness of the panels means that any brush stroke just sticks out. Just it's super unforgiving. I would have trouble. I would have to wet blend everything and then layer, and even then I'd probably hate it. Yeah, there's a reason that most of people use like an airbrush to lay down the basics of color on those. So, all right. So yes, it's not you, Shadow Raven. It's not you. It's the model. We all try to blame the model. So this time we can successfully blame the model. Yeah. Cavs and battle mechs, they're just, and anything like that, like it can be very difficult. I don't think it's a good challenge though. I don't think it is, because even if somebody even my level has trouble with that hyper, then it's not the right challenge. It's not the right thing. Yeah, go ahead, do it. Blame the model, just paint over, do edge highlighting, done. And then go work on some nice capes. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Like the Infinity mechs, I feel are a little bit easier because a lot of the Infinity stuff like that, the mechanical stuff, has a lot of smaller panels, and that I think is a lot easier. But yeah, if you're looking at improving your smooth blending, reach for the things. Yeah, I would not do it on a mech. If I want to challenge myself for smooth blending, I'm going to get a bust and do it on the face. Lots of flat panels, right. Yeah, that's fair. All right, guys, let's just close it down. I've gone way over time, almost a half hour over time. You guys have gotten a rare, very long stream from the Anne. I think they're easier because they've got much smaller panels. And I can paint each of those panels just like a plate of armor on a normal mini. Yeah. Yep. No problem, Shadow Raven. Anything to help you out. Thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks, Hyper, for your input. Thank you all. Well, I guess we at least took up some of the Luca time, so it won't be totally dead out in the internet. You bet, Quindy. Thank you. Thank you for being our wonderful mod. Stretch! Alright, it's time to go and take the Keeks for a walk. I hope you all have a lovely, lovely day. Have a great one, and we will be back for tomorrow. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, Laura. Alright, bye-bye.